hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another part of one of my favorite things to do, although we were on a 2-week hiatus. Why, Grin? We're going to get into it. Let's cover the basics, the most important thing right now. A mug of the sitting / you can't see it because this is, you can see it because I do visual as well, but also, it's just a nice coffee mug with ho 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 on it. We're off to a great start, okay? So first things first. Grin, why the damned hell was this series not uploaded every Sunday like you said? There was like a 2 or 3 week hiatus. What's your problem, man? Well, first of all, apologies. Greatly apologize for those of you guys who do enjoy the series greatly. But the issue that I thought I would have happened. So for those guys who do not know, and I feel like a lot of you guys can relate to this, but for people that like to just, I don't know how to put it, people who have an insane imagination that's just fueled purely by boredom, but also what they watch and intake. So a lot of the times when we're talking about these story ideas, I'll say similar to this, but this is the way I try to reform it and make it my own, but we still get to play with this cool idea that I saw from here, and etc. So I try to do my best to do that. But I also just have these random outbursts of okay, but what if we did this or anything like that. So that what ends up happening is you end up having this one story arc or this one kind of world that you're building, and you're like, okay, what if we did this? Okay, that's kind of cool because it plays off of this overall thing, or maybe in a story development kind of thing, it pays off in the future, right? This thing that we're gonna eventually get to is gonna matter now, and it's fun. So the problem with that is, I'm just trying to think of a way I could describe it. Basically, it's really easy to set me off. It's a good way to put it. My embers are always just flying like crazy. So what I mean by that is, of course, we have this one world that we're creating with in this neat prefix, at least I think, which is on Halloween night, you get turned into whatever you're wearing. Okay, and then we build atop that with 2 characters, both playing off of things I want to mess with more in the future, but they're kind of in their beginner stage growth right now. Then we progress with unlocking their kind of power to give there being some sort of kind of progression aspects of their character, as well as the overarching thing that connects the entire story is their friendship, and how important that can be. So then we start connecting all these threads. So that's the world that we're kind of creating, and it was really hard for me because this is a problem I've always had, is staying in that world, because again, for me, I'm the most flammable thing on the planet. I can bust for no reason sometimes when it comes to having ideas or anything, or just again, creating a world. So again, I found myself being okay, but what if, I like this world that we made, but what if we could do some crazy shit over here? And I'll just start unintentionally building this other thing. And I feel so many people get it. I feel so many people out there who are listening to this, etc. You understand how that's both good because it keeps things fresh and keeps you constantly just going at crazy things. But I will say, one of the challenges, restrictions I had on the story that we were doing in this podcast, was me being okay, even though there are plenty of times where I do want to jump off and create something else, maybe do a different premise. I just finished watching The Witcher. I'm oh, what if you do some fantasy stuff heavily, But of course, it helps a lot if you do want to, I don't know, maybe one day write a book that's just fun. Maybe it's one day if you want to go into a field like this where you are a person that helps foster and create ideas and flush them out. And that can help you there. But yes, it is massively helpful to lock yourself down to one single idea so that you can keep building and keep connecting threads and keep track of everything. That's one of the things that towards the ending parts I started to get a little bit better at, I think, which is basically keeping things somewhat on the rails and not just being so I guess this happens, in this way. And so I was okay, no, I know the beats I want to hit, and how we get to them is just kind of a part of the fun. But yes, alas, even though I had this thing, I did succumb. I did succumb to my shitty mind and got completely shell-shocked / locked into a different idea that I was doing. So I found myself basically being well, I don't really, I know where I want to go in the story, but I'm kind of still But this other world that I'm kind of building that I really enjoy is kind of pulling me back in a little bit. So yeah. And the real issue is that I set the bar pretty high for this series. And I talked about it kind of sporadically throughout this entire series, but a part of me is like, I want these to be good, on track, and ever progressively getting better, hopefully. Like more structured. I don't have to sit there for 10 minutes being like, well, I guess this happens. You know, I want things to keep trucking along and keep building this environment with you. But I think that oftentimes I jump the gun a little too quickly, and it ends up just breaking not only the momentum, but also me a little. So alas, this is a podcast, which I get to talk directly to you guys' ears, even though there is a visual element, like I said. But I still get to do that, and I still should take that with this medium. Like this medium is kind of meant to be if you're like bored and you're at work, or if you're playing a game and you're grinding some stuff out and you're just like, I could listen to this for a little bit, then you do that. So it doesn't need to be perfect, although I do try my best to make it as seamless as I possibly can. Like I do edit these, so there's just there's less ums and awfulness. Hopefully you guys see those things and are like, good, or whatever. But alas, I still got to calm down. So that's why this podcast part, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be very kind of toned back a little bit. Like again, I mentioned that like my mind is kind of trapped in this other world that I'm just making myself. But I'm doing my best now, because I do want to keep doing these podcast things, to anchor myself back to home sweet home, our weirdo monster world kind of thing. But I will say, unlike the other parts that we just filmed, or no, they were filmed way long ago. But anyways, they had like a lot of structure to them. Like I jotted down points I wanted to hit, but this arc I did not, because what is it called? What was the last one we did? I've been starting to give them names. Yeah, like the sealed demon, which we kind of covered last part. Which let's do a micro. Just like a breeze by what happened, just because it has been like a 2 or 3 week hiatus. So ladies and gentlemen, basically we are on Crowley getting his next relic. Now I will say that we are almost done with relics. If I'm not mistaken, in this part, our main character is going to go get his last relic, and then Crowley has one to get, but we're going to kind of try to do my best to compress that as much as I possibly can, because it's just kind of a neat thought I had, which I kind of wanted to work into a bigger story at a later date, but I don't have the time, patience, or effort right now to do that. So, yes, last part is we're going to go get Crowley's new weapon. For me, again, each one of these relics for our main characters are important. So, of course, I had the idea I really like the idea of familiars in like fantasy / whatever kind of realm. I really like the idea of them. I just really don't like the idea that they're so weak all the time. Like, hey, you're a bat, or you're an owl, or you're like a possum, you know? Like, that's the familiar that you chose to have, and that that's gonna be helping you and shit. It just seems weird. So to me, I was like, okay, well, what if we mess with this kind of mechanic, where we buffed the hell out of this familiar? But then I was like, okay, but then we're kind of jumping on the main character, Grimm's kind of beat, because he ends up becoming like a summoner at a certain point. So I don't want that to be the case. So I was like, okay, well, how can we still mess with this and have fun? So Crowley, he's basically a demon who's all into crafting, because that was the prefix that he chose when he dressed up for Halloween and whatnot. But regardless, that is where all of his like potential power is kind of being funneled through. So of course he goes and gets this badass demon as his last or second to last relic. But because it's Crowley who receives this relic, which is his badass familiar, he basically, by virtue of him being him, reduces it heavily. So there's this badass, like, this is the way I envisioned it, but there's like this badass warrior huntress demon with, I seen fan art of something one time, and I thought, or not fan art, of something, and it was basically like this badass lizard demon, which was like half snake, half just straight up demon up top side. And it just looked like fucking brutal. I think it was holding 2 axes too, so I kind of have that image seared into my brain, so that's what I think of when I think of this thing, but it could be whatever you desire. But for me, I also wanted there to be these like, again, I'm telling you guys this through the eyes of like kind of a creator a little bit, but I wanted there to be moments where the main characters basically had moments to shine, I guess. So for me, not only does the demon hate the shit out of Crowley, because this demon was training to be like this badass huntress, only to have been recruited, I guess, by Crowley, who therefore has just neutered her power, because he's a craftsman and he's not like some sort of berserker or something. So he basically converted her great power in combat to instead crafting clothes, crafting these magnificent pieces of art, which we will go into in the future. But nevertheless, she's pissed because that's not what she wanted, it's not where she was, and etc. The other thing we added was, and this is part of like the half snake, half demon kind of thing, is that Crowley actually hates snakes. I thought this would just be a fun kind of thing to squeeze in there, because Crowley is usually pretty stoic, and not stoic. You know, it's not like fearless. You guys know when someone's just really good at like rolling things off of their back kind of thing, like that. So they're not necessarily fearless, they're just really good about managing that emotion, maybe. But regardless, that's what Crowley is. So this is my moment that I thought would be fun to show the audience, that he is just as human or just as weak to some extent as us when it comes to things he's truly afraid of, which of course a snake is. So of course these two are anchored together now. She hates him, he hates her by virtue of him hating snakes, and it just creates this kind of awkward tension with our main character being in the center, kind of being this kind of, again, the idea, especially I mentioned it last part, I think, was for our main character to kind of be the thing that glues a lot of the other people together. Because yeah, maybe there could be 1,000 ways we could go about this. We could go about this in the way that he doesn't judge people intensely, so therefore he it's like slowly unwinds the knot that is their understanding of themselves, maybe, and or hatred for themselves and confusion with themselves, and so there could be 1,000 different ways we could do this. I think the way that I would do it is that I don't want to layer it on too thick, which is why, like, even though I have this outline for where I want this character to kind of be for everyone that we're going to introduce in the story, I still think I will wait for me to really press those buttons, and really make those moments really happen, because yeah, I just feel like it would be a bit of it'd be a weird thing for me to go into dialogue in the middle of a podcast thing, which I don't really want. Again, that's going, and that's something I really want to tailor back, is I don't like me talking about dialogue things. I like telling you guys, like, again, the whole reason for this podcast, for me at least, is to spark the creation in your mind. For those guys who are similar to me, who love like jumping into these worlds and creating your own character in this kind of weird thought experiment, and kind of just having fun with it, maybe seeing a TV show that day and being like, oh cool, what if we tried to implement this into that, and how would that work, and what characters could we also have, because I really like this character here, and I wonder if he could fit in this weirdo world if I found a way, things like that. So I think I want to move towards that, and less about like me basically improvising a novel right here. So yeah, maybe I should do that. Maybe we should just like try to do our best today to do that, because this is the perfect kind of platform to do that right now. Because for me, like I said, unlike the previous parts, I don't have that many jot notes about how our characters get there or anything like that. So essentially, let's try that. Okay. Well, I mean, if we're gonna try that, let's get into some liquid encouragement by that. Just in case you're watching on audio only, I'm just cracking up a Red Bull. That's it. Just not like an alcohol thing. Yeah. Maybe probably worse for you, but still. That's diet. My family got me diet fucking Red Bull for Christmas. I'm a toothpick. That's insulting. Anyways, regardless. So, we last left off with basically Crowley having to confront this demon, and then this demon being pissed at him. Reason why is because, of course, she was training to be this badass warrior huntress, only to be nerfed essentially by Crowley. Which I say nerfed, but this has an overarching thing I want to get to in the future, which is Crowley doesn't equal negative power. He just converts it to a different thing. So later on, this was my way of essentially having Crowley be the only man of like, in terms of like craftsman. Like we don't need, like, because again, if we're trying to be balanced in this world, having Crowley be like, hey, I can make a bunch of weapons, and I can make the best armor ever, and I can do these other things I want Crowley to eventually do, it would just be like, how many skill points does this motherfucker have? So for me, this was my way of kind of lessening the impact, but also showing that there are different ways that a relic can be powerful. Again, like the idea of Crowley's. I'm so proud of the idea of Crowley's cane being this thing that can deconstruct matter and like collect resources without having to like smash a pick into a rock for 10 hours, you know? So yeah, things like that. This was one of my instances of also trying to convey to the viewer or convey to you guys that like power doesn't necessarily mean explosives, craziness, nonsense. This is a bad thing to jump off of because we're about to go get our main character's power, which make me a lot of those things. Anyway, so yes, Crowley and the demon person start bitching at each other, only for our main character to kind of jump in, settle them both down, have them both kind of talk a little bit, find out what's going on. Eventually she explains to him what's going on. He's again just hates being around the snake thing, giant fear for him. Moving on. Okay, my iPad went off. Okay, but at last, Crowley's demon familiar I should just say, eventually makes a comment about how awful both of them look, which I haven't been really mentioning, but I feel like this is a good way to kind of retrospectively turn the camera on our main characters in a different light, which Crowley is his clothes are muddy, dirty maybe. Our main character, Grimm's clothing is just fucked beyond belief because he's combat oriented, he's more in the fight oriented. And also he's been like getting slashed and healed because of the whole werewolf nature of healing. So that's something that I also wanted to showcase aspects of the werewolf, but that also has feedback, which means clothes being torn to shit, things like that, blood stains on your clothing and all that. So of course, she takes Tara Crowley first. Now again, I don't want to get into the dialogue of this. More or less, it could be whatever. There could be moments of like Crowley bitching and being like, "Please don't touch me, just please don't lay a finger on me, you gross scale hand," or whatever. And her being like, "You're the worst. you're just a little fraidy cat, and it's the worst." But anyways, regardless, Crowley gets a pretty nice, I don't know, let's just say like a stylish jacket. And put together, let's say. He goes for like a very classy put together look, which is again very much similar to the Crowley and Good Omens, which I kind of am pulling to a certain degree from quite a bit in terms of like style, like a demon with style, but also can show friendship, which is a weird melting pot of ideas and combined things. But regardless, eventually, the tables get turned to our main character, and she's like, "Well, can I make you anything, or do you want me to make you anything?" Again, whatever dialogue is, it doesn't matter. Regardless, she comes out with this crazy idea for same thing, similar to Crowley, like a nice jacket, like a dress jacket with a nice shirt, pants, the whole 9 yards, and hands it to him. And our main character goes, this doesn't really seem like the greatest thing. But also I want our main character to not want to be a dickhead about it. So it's probably like, I can wear it. I can absolutely wear this. I think it would probably be hard to move in and all those things. So eventually she takes a second take and she's like, okay, fine. How about this? And then this is the moment that I wanted there to be kind of a causality thing happening. So again, our main character begrudgingly was like, I'm not really happy with this functionality of this look or whatever it may be. Could you make another one if that's okay and all those things? So then the familiar of course does and hands it to our boy Grimm, and his face lights up like just a giant smile, super happy, puts on the clothes, is even happier. And to me, this is the kind of moment that I thought would be good to tell you guys, where the idea is that I kind of wanted to mess around with this like kind of mini micro arc. Is that there's this person that had this one thing that they told themselves that they were going to do, and that was their purpose and their meaning, and then their life gets turned on its head, and they're sad, they're annoyed, they're angry. With all this combined, the person that they are brought to is kind of doesn't want them anyway, you know, like so then you end up having this moment of a lack of meaning in your life and a lack of purpose. But in this moment, as she hands our main character the clothing, she feels joy and happiness because, you know, it may not be whatever she was doing in hell, fucking slaughtering bitches, training to shit, I don't know. But she did find enjoyment from actually making someone light up from something so simple. It wasn't saving someone, but it was just giving them a piece of clothing, but hey ho boom, our main character lit up like a candle, you know, like there's moments like that where I wanted to see if you could kind of introduce the idea of finding purpose within any kind of situation that you are thrust upon. Like, you don't need to find purpose in something sort of insane, you know? You can find purpose in making people happy with the thing that you can do, which is create fantastic and wonderful clothes, if that is what you choose to do. It can be to instead be a person who does plumbing and just know that you're taking care of the business that no one wants to take care of, but it needs to get done. So this is me kind of introducing a similar idea to that, but also my way of kind of showing that I really like the trope in shows where a person is, by virtue of just being them, kind of magnetic to a degree, but also selfish in the pursuit of being them. Because that's an idea of like someone, I don't know, like in movies, for instance, someone will sometimes change their entire way they look, change the way they speak, change everything, just so that people will like them more. And that to me is kind of a disingenuous thing, although I do think that you should make changes based on if you are having like horrible results, you know. But to me, there was always a nice aspect of someone who knew who they were back to front, and stood by who they were back to front, and chose what they wanted to improve because it's what they wanted to improve, not because it's what other people wanted them to be or anything like that. So a person that sticks to their guns, but also because of the person that they want to be, that person is also someone that is kind to others, helps others, tries to build people up, all those things. I feel like that's a deadly combination for a main character to be endearing and hopefully fun to watch progress. But also we're going to sprinkle some things here or there which are counter to that. Like, again, the fact that he is, you know, he may be kind, he may be, caring or whatever, but there are these moments that I wanted to introduce where he's a fucking werewolf that like shreds people. He's not like this knight in armored, like silver-clad armor that can like behead someone and not a drop of blood is anywhere on them. No, he's a berserker, basically, a weird fucking like amalgamation of a werewolf and a necromancer pushed together, just culminating in this calm, serene berserker, which can command these things to rip things to shreds as well. So I'm like, we're painting a picture of a person that is brutal, looks crazy, the way he fights is terrifying, but then the person who is behind all that is actually quite kind and endearing and caring and these kinds of things. So I feel like this is this nice thing that we can do, but also cool that we can place this character in moments where they could kind of move past what people may think of them. Otherwise, yeah, we just have the classic trope of someone being like, people think I'm a monster, cry tears, and then it defends them anyway. Where it'd be nice to, in my opinion, for someone to be like, everyone hates me and they think I'm a monster. Sure, whatever they want, I don't care. It doesn't affect me. I know who I am. You know what I mean? Like, it's shit like that, and like it just roll right off of them because fuck it. Also, things that we can affirm or like pad this with is the idea that he has Crowley, he has other friends and shit that we're going to introduce to the plot and etc. But anyways, okay, so now we're going to do this is the like podcast part where I'm going to do my best to just keep trucking along. So yeah, that's wrapping up the last part because we ran too long last time, and yeah, we're probably I'll try to wrap this up. Anyways, both Crowley and Grimm are now styling. Crowley is looking like a slumdog millionaire, whatever. He's got a nice suit jacket on, looking fresh. Okay, and then Grimm. I don't honestly. The reason why I try to be vague about those characters is not because I don't have detail. Believe you me, I could chat your ear off about like 1,000 different things about detail. I just kind of like the idea of you guys implementing things that you enjoy. Also, I think detail at this point shouldn't be the thing I focus on. I feel like it should be overarching story, and then I can go back and add detail where I think it is necessary to build the scene, just from like a writer's standpoint / yeah. Anyways, yes. So the one aspect that I do see from our main character that is a bit different is him having a hood, just because he has his like neon fucking eyes, or not neon eyes, but like glowing eyes, and sharp ass teeth. So for me, that was my way of just having auto general design as him having some sort of hoodie like thing, so that he can kind of mask his craziness. Because Crowley has glasses, he has a hood. Yeah. Grin, what's going on with your voice? Oh, I got heartburn. Yeah, my dude. That's what we're dealing with. Anyways, But alas, ladies and gentlemen, let us start Chapter 7 of the Impossible World podcast called Hollow Fury. Listen. I don't know what to call things. I did my best, okay, because it has contextually some things going on. All right, so we're gonna do the thing that we need to do, because I did this a while back, and I like kind of doing it with these now, especially for the idea of like just getting to point A to point B. Okay, so we have a couple pillars to hit here. Generally, just the most general thing ever. We are on to Grim getting his artifact now. Okay, again, where we want to follow the thread of whenever Grim gets an artifact, it's basically like a gauntlet slash a filter that his power can be pushed through to give you a different effect. Because to me, this is a really neat idea in terms of just combat stuff. Like one of the things I really want to do at some point. There was like this one gauntlet, I think, that existed in some game. Or no, that's what it was. I was playing Devil May Cry. And Devil May Cry, you can play Dante, and you can hit B. When you hit B, you actually send forth these like astral swords. They just kind of like do a bunch of like blows, like quick hits. But to me, I was like, I'd be fucking dope if that was like a gauntlet that you could use, and you just, like maybe you throw power through it, and it summons forth these crazy swords that can wreck the world. But also, because I'm a dumb nerd who likes like video games, I was also like, well, dude, what if that was like that gauntlet became a skill tree, and you start off throwing these shitty ass like bronze, or not bronze, but like rusty trash swords at people, and then you level that bitch up and you start like throwing these ornate swords at people, maybe even getting on that level of like Fate Stay Night, that motherfucker who can like throw 1,000 pristine swords at people. It's a whole thing, man. My brain's a crazy thing. I'm a crazy person. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, so the pillars that we need to hit, the beats that we need to strike are a main character gets gauntlet. It's real simple. First beat. That's the most like overall I can do. Second thing is we need to introduce purpose for Gauntlet being powerful to make this an emotional impactful thing, and not just like, hey, do you want to go over there and grab this? Cool, done, nice, next part. So we got to make some sort of pillar to where this relic has some sort of importance. Yes. Now, Grin, how the damned hell are we gonna do this? Okay, well, let me go through some things, alright? Okay, so, long story short, our boys got some goddamn clothing, and now they're on their way to get Grim's relic. He's telling them where to go. They find themselves at an abandoned park. Now, again, this is one of those things that is like a point of detail that I would most likely go back and change, but fuck it, we're here. So, abandoned park. One thing they notice when they're in this abandoned park is that the enemy type that they keep sprouting out from nowhere is a corrupted beast. Now, what does that mean? Well, because we got basically a necromancer part, now we are on to a werewolf relic. Regardless, it's a corrupted beast. So they find these infected, raging kind of... It could be anything. It could be like a wolf. It could be a monkey-looking thing. Regardless, they are all shrouded in like this red rock kind of thing. You know, like lava rock, how it looks like this a crystallized something, except that's pure red, and it's like stabbing out of these creatures that they keep attacking, or they taking down. So anyways, again, this is like one of those moments of detail. Fuck it, they progress, they move through the encounter, they gain experience basically, and level up and get new abilities, and throughout the course of this, I would be telling you guys that they, get Mach 2 of their ability. At this point, I probably would say that Grim is actually... he got enough XP or skill points or whatever, or experience, to actually get his soul hit thing, his soul ball, so it's not just like a shitty weaken-like effect, but instead actually can maybe hold an element and is basically like a little tiny explosive ball that he throws at people. Anyways, game things. Okay, yeah, so this was something. So I wanted to kind of mess around with the idea of maybe there was like this corrupted beast, and Crowley or Grimm's, they somehow shoot like this giant crystal, like this volcanic crystal infection rock, off of his shoulder to a certain degree. So he slumps over and starts dying, and maybe I could make this a giant battle to where they found this like giant knight that wasn't a beast, but instead this warrior human who was just infected. They take off a chunk of that crystal, and he starts basically having some of his humanity come back. So anyways, there's this crazy dying person who starts talking nonsense. Crowley suggests that we just kill him and move on. Grimm suggests just give it a minute, and crouches down and listens to him. And of course, this man clinging to life starts to weave a tale, and the tale goes like this. Generally, like not crazy specific again. So long ago, there was this badass warlord. This warlord was hearkened to be a fantastic and brilliant warrior. And after thousands and thousands of battles, millions of kings trying to tear him down, monsters being crushed underneath his heel, and the secret to this warlord's immense power was the fact that he, of course, was a werewolf. But on top of being a werewolf, he also had an affinity for rage and being able to just come undone and put his faith in the wolf to just tear every single thing to shreds. In fact, legend says that the only way that he was able to actually die is by drowning in a pool of blood made by all the enemies that he slayed. And some say that the rage he felt still sinks into the bones of those who fight, making them go mad with bloodlust. And then, of course, the man crumbles into dust as his body breaks away as it was starting to do because they broke the crystal and da-da-da-da. Cool. So, of course, him and Grimm progress forward where they feel like it's getting concentrated with more of these beasts being held. Again, gaining XP the whole while. So alas, they keep slaughtering these beasts, breaking their diamond-like skin, progressing, and alas, they find themselves in this weird temple-like structure, with this single glass ball being in the very center of the room, with this very strange black wisp bouncing around inside of it. No rhyme or reason to its movement, seems rather odd. And right here, my dudes, there is just a giant blank space in my notes. So, yep. But we do have more notes after, but I clearly was like, whatever happens here, I don't care, as long as we get the thing. So sure, let's just keep that in mind. Okay, so again, there could be, I would go back and like tweak things, but with like this in mind, sure, we could say that. Crowley gets snuck up on by a, one of those beast monsters, and it lunges at him, knocking him back, knocking this globe over onto the ground. After they observed it, some beast jumped out of nowhere, knocked Crowley back, knocked him into the thing. The glass shatters. Crowley and him both make eye contact as they see the thing that's now was encased is now not encased anymore. So of course Crowley and them make eye contact, think, oh shit, they look back, and then this black kind of wisp thing just darts onto our main character's right arm. Yes, I think whichever, I think the left arm we established is his necromancer bits, and the right arm is going to be his wolf bits. Whatever. So Crowley quickly deals with the monster almost instantly as it jumped on him. The only thing that did is knock him back, which is enough to set this all off. Regardless, Grimm is now having this black tar-like wisp thing just start going after his arm, climbing up it, creating this kind of like black tar thing throughout it that has highlights of red infused all within it, kind of like veins, I guess. And Grimm starts off saying, I don't know what's going on, to quick change of visceral pain being shot up to his arm, starting to cry out a little bit, dropping to his knees as he tries to pull it off, and of course, to no avail. More or less, what I'm trying to convey is that the relic is starting to consume his right arm. His like bone right arm, sure, but still. So as this thing's climbing its way up and up and up its arm, it's getting closer and closer to his face. It's making its way up there, getting ready to consume all of him. But in the peak of his pain and cries, he finds himself, as it's just about to reach his neck or whatever, his eyes go black, and he kind of just falls back into on the ground like a stiff board. And of course, Crowley's like, okay, I know this game. I gotta wait it out. I'm not sure if there's anything I can do. So then Crowley's just on standby. Anyways, or we could say he's fighting. It doesn't matter. It's one of those detail things that we'll nail out at a later date. And it's kind of irrelevant unless we're actually making a fucking story here, which I may do in the future. I don't know. So yes, our main character gets taken into this dream state once again. And in this dream state, similar to the last one where he's in this very dark room with a bit of light right where he is. It looks like the ground is this very, very thin black water. And as he slowly starts to come to, he noticed that there's this giant wolf in front of him. This is his wolf. But as his eyes start to focus in, he sees that his wolf looks off, looks different. And as his eyes focus up, he sees that this wolf has a chain around its neck. His wolf has a chain around its neck. So Grim follows the chain link and sees this giant, reddish, menacing shadow hovering above his wolf. His wolf's kind of like in the crouched down position. This shadow looks like it's like a mixture of like black tar smoke with a touch of red highlights going all, kind of giving it some sort of different look besides just being a black shadow. Yes, and as our main character starts to kind of try to get to his feet or realize what's going on, the shadow starts to kind of tremor, like as if you're so angry your body starts to shake. And as it starts to shake, the shadow starts to become a little bit undone, and you see your wolf just start growling with its fury, getting transferred through it to your beast. Regardless, essentially what I'm trying to convey here is that this warlord, maniac, is seeing you as this thing that's trying to wield its power. It's saying, hell no, I'm angry, I'm pissed, I'm fury incarnate, you're not doing this to me. So of course he takes your wolf and uses it against you. So he's basically transferring his rage to the wolf, and it's basically my way of conveying like this thing consuming you. So this thing is basically finding the wolf in you, and using it against you, so that it can gain control of you, consuming you and all that stuff. So alas, we are now in this moment where we are one-on-one with our wolf again, our normal self, more or less, with a bit of enhancements, I guess, from the Lich, whatever. Regardless, sure, let's just do that. Let's say there's some back and forth that happens where your wolf snarls and bites at you, and you hear the clash of the teeth coming at you as you back up, and you finally get to your feet, and maybe you even hear the reddish black shadow chuckle a little bit as he's enjoying this kind of torment that you're going through. You're trying to convey something to your wolf, like, hey, you're me. Like we are together. This is not the deal that we had. This is not what we are. And maybe even you say something and you look into the wolf's eyes, and for a moment he starts to come to his senses. But then the shadow monster quickly tugs on this chain link leash. And as soon as he tugs on it, it pulls your wolf back to being just in a berserk rage. So our main character right there visually is able to see that, okay, well, this is the link that is making him this way. So alas, your wolf is lunging at you, you're dodging, you're not trying to hurt your buddy, you're the piece of you, so you're dodging, you're trying to do all that stuff. So sure, let's say that. Let's say as this kind of thing is going on, this whole event, you feel weaker and weaker and weaker. So much so that you're feeling drained and you kind of drop. As you were kind of dodging and trying to play it safe. So alas, your wolf looks at you and is crouched down, is about to jump, and you notice that the what do you call it? The shadow of rage is that's a good chapter name. That's a shadow. The shadow of rage is not a bad chapter name. Anyways, regardless, yes. So as your wolf is bending down, ready to pounce on you for the final time, and you see this shadow of rage start to tremble, almost screaming at it to finish the deed. Our main character, with the last idea that he has, as soon as the wolf takes off and lunges at you, you use every bit of power you have to duck, dash, and slide to the right on this kind of wet surface, this kind of water-like thing. So use that kind of slip ability to dodge to the right, but instead of just dodging, our main character aims for the chain, that chain link collar, and the leash attached to it. So he grabs the leash as his wolf basically tries to bite at him, but he's just out of distance. And our main character, who has not a single fucking thing around him, no knife, no blade, no nothing, takes that chain, puts it through his teeth, his bottom teeth, his sharp bottom teeth, and grabs it, and with all of his might pulls up, and enough to break his teeth with this iron. But alas, it shatters. It shatters the connection of those chain link things, and everything kind of gets dropped. The shadow monster kind of steps back a little bit. The shadow of rage kind of steps back. Your wolf kind of just is off to the distance. It hard locks on our main character, who's now fallen back, looking up at this shadow of rage as it approaches you, only to cut back to our main character, who starts to look up with a giant smile with blood seeping out of his mouth because you broke like 6 teeth trying to do this. But he has a sick, twisted grin looking up at this shadow of rage. Why? Because seconds later, boom, his wolf is now no longer caged, no longer on a leash, and is pissed at the thing that was trying to control him. So his wolf just gets on top of the shadow and just starts shredding it, just biting at it, eating at it. And of course, this has a representation for what's going on in the real world, or like the tangible world where Crowley is. And of course, Crowley starts seeing this thing that was enveloping your entire arm and getting closer and closer to like consuming your whole face start to retract and like get shredded and pieces of it lopped off. And the only thing that remains is this gauntlet, this steel, silver, beautifully black, metallic as shit gauntlet that covers your whole hand. The gauntlet of your fingers and hands and thumb are all sharp, as if you had like a wolf's claws kind of thing. Maybe more of less of like a nail and more of just like a pointed finger, you know. So it's all like that. But also, I want it to be this like crazy kind of metal as fuck design, which is like sharp points kind of jetting out at some places. It's like a harmonization of like beautiful craftsmen but brutal war. You know what I mean? Like that. And alas, our main character finally comes to as he starts to see it kind of mold to his hand on his terms, with his wolf being the thing that's crafting this to their will, rather than it being this force of rage trying to take over. So alas, you guys are probably asking, well, what's going on, Grin? What was this whole reason for making it this whole weird warlord thing who bathed in blood or anything like that? Was any of that conducive to what we're talking about? Kind of. You see, to me, one of the things that I wanted to do is to kind of represent a way, and it was a lot of this you guys will see that is, because I can make power or something good out of anything, really, just because I'm the puppet master. All I have to do is like never give you an enemy that is like the person that would easily be able to defeat these two, you know, like, so I'm the puppet master. So you're the puppet master as well. So for me, it's much more about, I really like this idea, this power, for instance. So maybe you like the idea of invisibility. So you're like, how the hell do I use this practically? And you're like, okay, well, maybe I make an assassin character. Okay, maybe I make this assassin character so good at turning on this invisibility to where it just becomes this overpowered thing. And maybe I even make it so that he doesn't even just have invisibility, but he has teleportation. So this harmonizes perfectly with it. Even when someone does know that he's invisible, he can be on them in seconds, kind of as a trump card, right? Like, you can do that, which is kind of the way, like, you can reverse engineer something to be powerful, whether it's the world that they inhabit, the potential that you put them in situations in which that could be powerful, all those things. So for me, I really love the power of Wisp, of like this chaotic power. Like, what do you call it? Have you guys seen the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them? The first episode of that, that kind of idea of like this disembodied smoke, wind, sharp metal. All of these things would be a good way of describing it. Just like tear into something and just completely blitz it down like nothing. It's almost like the eraser tool, but you have no idea what's going on or how it's erasing things so brutally. It's like 1,000 piranhas just devouring whatever it's in its path. That's kind of the idea of this. And to me, this whole warlord story, and also being a werewolf, and it also basically being this weird way of converting your power, but also because Grimm's werewolf is its affinity is to like the dark aspect of magic because of his necromancer bits. That also works in there. So to me, he basically, this gauntlet, as he stands up and what do you call it? There's like a bunch of new beasts charging right for our character. And our main character takes a deep breath, puts his hand up with his new gauntlet, and just this venomous, not like a roar, but just like this like almost. you were to take knives and put them on like a plate and just dig them in really, really hard and scrape and scratch them like crazy, and it's like this like black matter just cutting through air and existence as it's just burning through all these people. This uncontrollable wisp thing, this fury, this hollow fury. Is kind of the way I see it and want it to kind of be described. This if you were to take, and I think this is something that I also wanted to work into it, but I forgot to kind of like put it in there whilst he was fighting the monster, is the whole idea of our main character is not, how do I put it? He's not like unhinged. It's not what he does. He's not like, oh, I just like being out of control. He's not. If anything, he finds moments of like for instance, and this is more of like a narrative thing that I want to mess with, which is because he is a werewolf, he has this ability to like turn it on really quick and turn it off, and in that moment he kind of lets himself go off the hinges a tiny bit and like just shred somebody. So he may be being really agile and taking down people one at a time, only to activate this quick burst and just demolish a person. Like take these 2 axes that he just got from this other person that he took down and just hammer them into this one person. And like it almost makes me think of Shadow of War, like Shadow of Mordor, that kind of like those games where you can do like a brutal kill and it makes everyone look at you like, what? But you go like out of your way to dismantle this person, right? So there's moments like that I kind of see and I'm like, oh, that'd be fucking dope as shit, but also terrifying for people who are fighting alongside you. And maybe it would make them think like, oh, he's a bad person or a crazy person, but it's just an aspect of how he fights. Like you may fight dirty, but you always fight for good causes and the right thing, you know? Yeah, I don't know where I was. Oh, right, I wanted to implement certain things, so I wanted to kind of get at the idea of there's like this, like almost give a voice to that shadow, so he wasn't just like quiet and it was just him like pulling on this wolf. So I would have liked to introduce some dialogue between them, basically him being like the shadow of rage would be like, I could give you immense power if you just give in. It feels so good to let everything just boil and let your emotions just go unhinged and become unleashed and just be this ravenous thing. The shadow of rage is playing with that perception of like, it's so good to just unleash. People are cruel. Like all of these things, you can just let them all go away. Those kinds of things. Whereas our main character comes from the different aspect, which is, it's not that I want to control my emotions or my rage, my fury, but I do want to guide them. I do want to guide them down a path that is by my will. So they're not controlling me, but so much I am beside them in whatever choice they need to make. And I can help guide them down a path rather than just letting them do whatever they want. So it's not that you're like stopping and like blockading a water, like, you know, if you're trying to stop water coming from a pipe and you just jam a cork in there and it blows up eventually. He's like, that's a bad idea. But what you could do is guide water like it does a current down a stream, you know, angling it away from a town and instead just around it, and that way you could still have the perks of getting water, but without the, you know, flooding and destruction of your house. So that's his kind of perspective, and again, if I were to go back and add detail, I would have flushed that into there, of giving them this kind of nice back and forth, and then him eventually, you know, showing him that, you know, how far he's willing to go for his thing, which is to break his own mouth, basically, just to show that he believes in his wolf, that it will not only not kill him, but it will go after him, and etc. So yeah, that was the whole idea there. But again, just to describe what the hell it is, it's this giant metal gauntlet, whereas the left one, his lich one, I wanted to like the design of it, I wanted it to still show that he has bone, like complete bone hands, like forearm, everything's bone. So for the necromancer part, which is where it's kind of concentrated in, I wanted the gauntlet to kind of still show that. So I think it's like his 2 pointer fingers and his thumb are uncovered by this gauntlet, whereas his other hand, his whole hand's covered in this like steel gauntlet, claw looking thing. And again, oh wait, I should describe what the hell the gauntlet does, like what's the power. So I kind of mentioned it, but it's like this, the idea is hollow fury. Rage, it's fury, it's destruction without form. But its form is, but it still exists. Basically, he converts his wolf power, rage, whatever, his burst, into this unbound form, and it's just like this ball of void shadow that just chews through whatever is in front of it. And it also gives him this moment of power, rage, but also the moment where he doesn't have to always be point blank in the fight. In fact, again, I want to eventually get him a relic that is that kind of sword relic that I was talking about. That way he doesn't have to be so point blank all the time and being caked in blood. So this was my way of also doing that, of like giving him some range, but also giving him some like just burst power really quick, because Crowley doesn't really have that. I mean, he could, maybe later on we'll say that he makes a bazooka, but for the time being, they're like, oh, there's like a giant castle, dead, all eviscerated. I don't know. I thought it was a nice way to kind of filter the wolf too, like the idea of, like, most people when they think of werewolf, they think of, okay, it's just this force of will, a force of nature, like this beast that if it ever gets close to you, you're dead, right? Because it's just so strong and overpowering, right? But to me, I was like, okay, well, what if there was a story and or a relic that converted that, so that you could, instead of being, like physical damage, you could convert that to just this chaotic shredding kind of thing that you could throw out, which would harmonize with the idea of this werewolf being this berserker-like thing, but plays really well into the idea of there being this relic there being kind of this exchange of ideas, where instead of just letting your rage and emotions go unhinged, instead you find a way to guide them down a path that is something that you choose to do. So to me, that's something that I believe in life, which is, not to stop emotions, not to not cry, not to not feel angry, but instead to find pathways to where you can exert those things that is in a healthier way to experience all those things. So yeah, and this to me is the embodiment of that, is like this ability to throw out rage and just like control it, to guide it. You're not trying to stop it, but you're trying to give it form and tell it, go this way, go that way. Good. So yeah, that's the whole kind of system at large coming back at itself. And again, one of the things that we did not do this time is go too much into like Grimm and Crowley's talking points in this, which I kind of like, because again, I wanted to set up the stage for you guys to mess around with your own mind in it. Maybe you see it differently. Maybe you've seen the whole encounter as like this beautiful temple-like situation where they're climbing upstairs as they're taking down these samurai that are infused with this rock crystal that is a representation for this wisp infecting people that were worshiping it, maybe, or guarding it because whatever. And then they get, or maybe it's not that. Maybe instead it gives your werewolf like 6 times the amount of like density, thickness. So when you actually do transform, you transform into this hulking giant wolf, whatever you want. So again, I like the fact that we didn't go in between Crowley and Grimm's kind of talking points, because again, those are things that, again, at some point I would like. This is one of those ideas I want to probably pursue. Like write down, maybe try to make a story out of it. I don't think people would buy it or it would be successful, but it's just something that I dedicate a lot of time to, and I have points that I want to connect them to, and this is honestly a good way for me to kind of remember it as well. As much as I can make bullet points and jot notes, I can't exactly see my emotion when I'm talking about it, which in this moment I think I can. Or like, again, I'm really excited talking about the idea, like again, the moment to me that really I see vividly is the moment where our companion, our main character, chooses not to like punch his wolf or whatever, because he sees that as himself. He instead chooses to do everything he can to free the thing that he believes in, which is his wolf. So then again, he grabs this chain, weaves it through the bottom of his teeth, and just fucking pushes out and breaks that chain. And then the moment where the shadow looks down at him, and then he looks up and he has this bloody smile, like, you're fucked. And then this wolf comes and just obliterates him, rips him to shreds, that kind of thing. Like the moments like that, to me, I get so giddy. And I think if I were ever to write, having gone back and watching these, I could be like, okay, I'm with it. I clearly am like enjoying this and wanting this, and it might stoke those fires once again. Because writing is a whole thing. It's like you gotta do 1,000 renditions of it if you want to be a good writer, I think, and stuff like that. But yes. So just so that we have like a good jumping off point next time, yeah. So they find the relic, they shoot the shit a little bit, talk about it again. If I was writing a story, I would go back and give you guys some details about what the heck they say, what their weird norms and conversation patterns are. Regardless, they get back in the car, and now they're going to get Crowley's last relic. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are, again, hopefully, the next part is going to probably be quick. Like, we're probably going to quickly get the relic, and then we're going to basically start doing the end of Hell Knight. Now, I told you guys beforehand that the jumping off point of this series was going to be over in the first 2 episodes, or like 3 episodes. I took my sweet ass time, and then I realized, oh no, it's going to take way longer. Okay, essentially, just to give you some bullet points, we have to end Hell Knight, which we're going to get to pretty soon, hopefully. And then we are going to wake up from Hell Knight, basically. So the next following day is going to happen. Some shit's going to happen. Some like world events going to go down. And then I think the day after, yeah, I'll let you know. Basically, there's one more event after that will like be the jumping off point, which I think anyone can do so many things with, which you already could, but like to me this is my fun jumping off point where the kind of like the story changes to where, like, I don't know, if I was writing a story and depending on how long I took and how many descriptive words I used, maybe Hell Knight would be one book if I was doing it that way, and then you build to top that ever so slightly and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know which would be what. Like, I don't know if this, like, Hell Knight itself is so crazy and big that it would be one book. Whatever I would do, maybe a TV show. Again, I always try to think about ways to filter something through just so it can translate. But anyways, yes, I don't know. But regardless, we're making good ground. And if I keep doing this, or again, I stop going to like the nitty gritty. Crowley says this, and Crowley does the thing that Crowley does, and and Grimm does the thing that he does. He's trying not to be a dickhead. Like, yeah. So yeah, if I could stop doing that and we could just keep doing the stuff that I did here, which is just basically giving ideas, being like, hey, this is the thing I wanted to do. Maybe you want to implement this in the story that you got going on in your head, or maybe we're working on the same story kind of thing. And yeah. But regardless, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Subscribe button over there, as well as 2 videos further that way. Thank you and goodbye.